The night was still and silent, the only sounds the chirping of insects in the underbrush. Darren moved stealthily through the darkened forest, careful not to make a sound. He was dressed in mottled fatigues that blended into the shadows, his face smeared with dirt and charcoal to break up his profile. In one hand, he carried a suppressed submachine gun, in the other, a combat knife. Up ahead, the aliens had set up a temporary encampment in a clearing. Darren could see the glow of their campfire through the trees. He crept closer, using the natural terrain and vegetation as cover. There were 5 of them, the crab, like Idari, standing around chatting in their clicking language. They seemed relaxed, unwary, easy targets. Darren wasn't sure where the Idari were from originally, or why they had come here. All he knew was that 6 months ago, they had invaded Earth and occupied all the major cities. Those humans who didn't submit had fled to the countryside and forests, left to wage a guerrilla war against a superior foe. Darren was part of one such ragtag resistance group. They lived rough, striking against the Idari when and where they could, trying to weaken the occupiers' grip. Tonight, it was his turn to remind the Idari they didn't own this world yet. Darren selected his first target, one of the aliens on the edge of the group. He took aim with the submachine gun, exhaled softly and squeezed the trigger. The suppressed weapon coughed, and the Idari collapsed with a bubbling shriek, dark ichor, spurting from the wound in its thorax. Before the others could react, Darren shifted aim and dropped a second one. The remaining 3 scattered, scuttling for cover and unslinging their own weapons. Darren was already moving, dashing from the brush towards a large tree at the edge of the clearing. Green plasma bolts sizzled through the air around him as he ran and dove behind the thick trunk. The Idari were chittering excitedly, no doubt contacting their headquarters for reinforcements. Time was short now. Darren popped out from cover and snapped off a quick burst, driving the Idari back down as they returned fire. He tossed a grenade into their midst, then immediately broke from cover. Sprinting towards the rocky outcropping 20 meters away, the grenade detonated with a crump. An angry alien, squeals told him it had found its mark. Reaching the outcropping, Darren scrambled up the rocks and onto an overlook that gave him a height advantage over the clearing. Only one Idari remained below, circling cautiously with its weapon ready, searching for the human. Darren sighted down on the last alien, exhaled, and shot it through its large left optic. The Idari spasmed and collapsed. The firefight had lasted less than 2 minutes. Now Darren turned and slipped back down the rock face, disappearing into the darkness of the trees. His heart was pounding from the close combat, but he felt the elation of victory. 5 fewer occupiers polluting his planet. It was a small blow against the Idari, but enough to remind them that the humans would never give up, would never stop fighting. After a few kilometers, Darren reached the hidden cave that served as his resistance cell's current base. The rest of the group was already awake, having heard the gunshots. "Just in time," said Rita, the former soldier who led them. "Our lookouts report Idari reinforcements approaching the area." Darren quickly described the skirmish. The others grinned. "Nice work," said Jake. "That'll give the crab faces something to think about." "We got lucky this time," Rita said. "But they'll be on high alert now. We need to move camp at first light, get some rest. People, we've got a long trek ahead tomorrow." The group bedded down again to grab a few more hours' sleep. Darren sat watch near the cave entrance, listening to the sounds of the forest. An owl hooted softly in the distance. It was so peaceful out here, away from the harsh alien metropolises, where most of humanity now languished under Idari domination. Someday we'll take back our planet, Darren thought. Someday. But until then, we resist however we can. At the first glow of dawn, the group packed swiftly and departed. Darren took up the rear, covering their trail as best he could. He felt confident the Idari wouldn't find this cave now. But they'd have to keep moving, keep their enemy off balance. Where to strike next? A supply convoy, maybe an isolated patrol. Darren considered options as he hiked, wary for any sign of alien pursuit. It hardly mattered in the end. Any chance to hurt the invaders was worthwhile. This planet was not theirs to rule. Mankind would never accept occupation. The Idari could overwhelm the cities in big armies, but they couldn't stomp out the human spirit. Darren and others like him would remain a thorn in the Idari's side, carrying on the fight day after day, year after day, year after year. One precious world, one people united against tyranny. Guerrilla war was a harsh struggle. Many nights Darren wondered if their little band's actions could ever amount to more than pinpricks against the Idari hordes. But then he remembered the old saying, "The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing." There was still good in the world. Still hope. As long as the resistance lived, mankind lived. They would continue to resist, and one day be free again.